Welcome to our latest bonus chat. If you missed our podcast looking back at Bulls v Leinster, we harped on the more positive aspects of Leinster's improved performance. However, it was our second defeat in a row, and it wasn't like we didn't have opportunities to take all 5 points. So for this video, we're going to harp on maybe what went wrong. And Conor, you'd like to start with the defense.
Yeah. Look, for all our talk and so some people may say bluster about the Jacques Nienaber defense, and it is it's a high risk, high reward defense, and we've talked lots about that in the past. I think our defense was lacking in some very, very basic things this weekend. My kingdom for a pillar, because a lack of a pillar is responsible for 14. Sorry, no, only 12. I think they missed the conversion on that one. But 14 points for the lack of a pillar. The first try, the first of those was the Bulls' second try, and it's not even a thing like I've been caught, when you're a when you're a big burly front row and some scrum half steps in and goes, whoa, and you go, whoa, with him, and then he darts on the other side, and I find me a front row who hasn't been caught by that once. But it wasn't even that. It was just a straight up lack of anyone on that side of the ruck. And suddenly they're going 40, 50 meters to get down and score a try. And it's just simple things. We're all rushing up. Why aren't we rushing up together? And why haven't we got those very, very basics? And then the same thing happens for, I think it's their third try, where again, the pillar's just missing. He's not there. And it's not even, again, it's not that he's been sold a dummy. It's not that he's late arriving. He's just never there. And somebody's going to be sitting in a video session and the question will be asked, who is meant to be right there? Who is missing from that spot right now in this play? And the fact that it happens twice is just, it's killer. The other really, really bad one for me is that, yes, we have this rush defense, but if you're kicking long, then clearly you come up in a line. You come up with other players. And I can't even remember which try it was now because I didn't write enough in my notes. But it's Baird on the inside, and I think it's Soroka on his outside. I could be wrong on that. I'd need to double check. But as the ball is taken, and the two lads drift towards him, and Baird kind of stops trying at that point. It's like, oh, he has him. It's fine. So when Soroka misses the tackle, and there's a whole lot of room on the outside because everyone hasn't come up in a line. Everyone's all over the far side of the pitch. Everything is happening over on this side. And it just got easy for them. It was far too easy watching that you've got what essentially ended up being 3-on-1, and you've got fullback coming from way over the other side, just trying to close off the angle. But the try was already scored at that point. And it's these simple things. It's things that you teach 12-year-olds. You teach 12-year-olds to have a pillar and post at every ruck. And you teach them that you push up the line together so as not to create those dog legs, so as not to create those big gaping holes. I think the other problem we had then is we just got caught too narrow a couple of times. I mean, that you mentioned it on the main pod that the the kicks to the corner were doing us harm, and particularly when LaRue came on, and he's just looking, going, "Wow, look at all that space! I'm going to kick past this one," and the room was there. We have to be careful of being caught narrow. The same thing happened against Northampton. We were caught narrow on a couple of occasions, and there's all this space out wide for them to run into. And if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're doomed to repeat them. So I think that we definitely, I think Nina will be pulling, as I say, pulling a few lads up in the training session on Monday morning and saying, who's responsible for this. And that I think they're the kind of group where certainly you get that impression anyway, where people will say, yes, it is my responsibility. I failed the team in that moment, or I wasn't running hard enough, or I wasn't chasing, or I wasn't whatever. So you'll hope people will take responsibility, learn the lesson, and get back out next week and do better.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about on the main pod about how much better the attack was than it was last week. And then also last week we said we were looking for positives. And one of the things we said, well, at least in the first half, our defending was decent enough. It was the way we'd expect it to be. But this week, like you say, it seems to have flipped. The ease of which they were getting those kick passes, it reminded me of that game early when Niedapper was in this against Ulster at the RDS. I think it was Billy Burns was just kicking to corners like just for fun. And it's the whole fool me once, shame on you kind of thing. They just kept doing it. And Willie LaRue for his one, he just had so much time. You could almost get a measuring tape and work out how to get the pass into the corner. There was no, and there were Leinster players in front of him. They needed to get in his face and put him off. But it was a criminal amount of space. And like you say, yeah, there was times at the pillars where, I mean, to watch someone just pick up the ball and run straight through the ruck, it's infuriating. And like you say, they will go over that. Nienaber in particular, his brand is his defense. That's his whole thing. And I don't think there's any doubt. You look back over this game, and I would say pretty much all of those 39 points. This is no disrespect to the Bulls. They're a quality side. But the fact is that if you hand, and it's a compliment to them, if you hand them an opportunity, they will take it. I mean, we literally handed them one try at the end. I think just Sam, he had like you say, he had a great display for 70 minutes. He just needs that experience. You rarely saw Johnny Sexton doing that because it's almost, you compare it to American football, the quarterback who can read the defense. They go into it with a set play in mind, but they need to, if you read the defense, you're going to, oh wait, this isn't going to work. I need to do something different. And it's like he has his mindset. I do this pass, I do that pass, I do this pass, I do that. And he does it no matter what. And he didn't realize that there was a guy right there ready to block him off. So that he'll get that. He'll get that with experience, hopefully.
It was a really unpleasant 7 points to give away because it's telegraphed. It's there the whole time. It's obvious. But the only positive in this is that the defense can't be blamed for it. Mm-hmm. The defense did nothing wrong to make that happen. It's a good read from the Bulls player and a bad read from Sam. But it's the other ones. There's 3 other tries that I'm looking at in particular where it's so avoidable. I mean, look, okay, the one where they're in a close range and we've no pillar. Okay, you can kind of say that there's a sense of inevitability in a try like that happening because they're that close to the line and they're a very physical pack. You'd expect something to give, but not when you're halfway down the pitch, and definitely not when you're missing tackles to leave acres of space for players to run into.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to work on. Like I say, if you leave the previous week out of it, what we needed to do to put that behind us, it was actually from Leinster standards, it was disappointing that we didn't take all 5 points. You could say glass half full and say it was great that we were in that position, that we even came away with a point at all. But there was 5 points to be gotten there, and we couldn't see the game out. But hopefully if they brought it forward from the previous week, they can bring this forward again. They've got big games coming up. They've got the Sharks, then of course Munster and Croke Park the following week. So they'll be coming back home for them. So hopefully they'll sort that out. Well, listen, Conor, we're going to leave it there. First of all, I have to ask. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she sometimes watches these videos. Which, if anyone wonders why I don't swear more for results like this, that's probably why. She's going to watch this. She's going to see your shirt, and she's going to see the number
She's gonna
6,
see my
7.
shirt.
And she's going to ask,
And I'm just looking and going,
story?
oh, 6'7". It's an old shirt. I've had this for
it's a coincidence, yeah.
probably 15 years. And if I'd wanted to appeal to the TikTok generation, I probably wouldn't even have thought to wear this shirt. It's totally coincidence. And as somebody who does a lot of work with teenagers, and I've managed to fit that in with every group I've worked with over the last few weeks. So yeah, anyone out there on TikTok or wherever else you might be watching, Unk knows. At least that's what a young person told me.
We're hip. We're down with it. She's
Yeah.
going to kill me for even doing that. Okay, listen, Conor, that's great. Thanks for that. And if you, the viewer, have any thoughts yourself on Leinster's season so far, or indeed anything like Conor's jersey or anything like that you want us to harp on in future, please leave your comments below. And while you're at it, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe as well.